All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of On the Fly, a Financial Literacy Institute podcast. Today we have a great episode on the books. I'm joined by my co-host Josh Besessi and our special guest of the day, Michael Greene. So, guys, how are you guys doing today?
Phenomenal. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, doing great. Thanks for having me, Sean.
Awesome. So this also marks Josh's second episode that he's a co-host on. So we're hoping to get Josh a little bit more experience on the podcast and maybe even have him host some episodes here in the future. But today we're going to talk about Michael Greene, and our main focus of this episode is going to be kind of touching on the family-run business that he is a part of and that I'm actually a part of as well as an employee, and kind of building a company culture and the aspects of company culture. So I've known Michael for about the past 2, maybe 3 years or so as I've worked for Air Control Products. And Michael previously worked down in Cincinnati in the construction industry as well, but he came on full time, what was it, last May or so?
And it was May 2020, yeah.
May of 2020, so shoot, almost or over 2 years ago, actually. So Michael's been full-time for over 2 years now, and he's also been involved in the business for what, 9-10 years since you were in high school and everything too. So
yeah, since I was 15.
Yeah, so you've been exposed to it, you've been brought up into it, and that's kind of the intriguing part that I'm interested in hearing more about. And I guess in preparation for this episode, I re-listened to your dad's podcast episode with Frank Favaro as I was driving around to appointments today, and I kind of want to see like how your dad answered some of those questions and how you're going to answer some of those questions too. So I guess, Michael, are you able to give our audience kind of a little bit of a background about yourself and I guess the things that are important to you in life?
Sure. So like Sean said, I've been with Air Control now full time for a little over 2 years. I am from the Northeast Ohio area. I was born and raised over in Medina. I went to high school at Highland High School, and then I decided to move down to Cincinnati, University of Cincinnati, for my college degree, where I got a double major in international business and marketing. And after that, I didn't really want to move back up here, wanted to stay down there, have a really good group of friends that I'm still in touch with. So I got a gig working in construction software, actually. So stayed down there, did that for, oh goodness, I guess 3 or 4 years. Met my wife when I was in school. She's from Northeast Ohio. My dad called me, said, hey, it's time to get back up here. So moved back up here early 2020. Now I have a child. And the last part of your question, things that are important to me, certainly my marriage is top, but also, being a father, as far as personally goes, and like Sean kind of touched on, business, but specifically our culture, providing a place to work where people enjoy coming to work every day, see Air Control as a place that they are going to be at a long time, and see it as a place to grow. And yeah, I guess that's kind of my 45-second elevator speech.
Absolutely. Yeah. Excellent. And I must say too that Michael's wife, Joss, is one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. And his daughter, Lou, is absolutely adorable. So yeah, Michael definitely has a lot to be thankful for. And it's been a great opportunity for me as well to work with Michael and work with the Greene family in general at Air Control Products. And Michael hit the nail on the head when he talked about providing a culture that's different than kind of somewhere that anyone else has ever worked before, but also that breeds longevity. So, at Air Control, we've had people that have worked there for 30 plus years. And I guess like people our age, you tend to see people hopping around from company to company like every couple years to get raises, to get a better experience type of thing. And at Air Control, you really don't see that because, the work environment that we have and the people that we work with, I feel like it's second to none. And realistically, like the construction industry in general, it's just a whole different vibe than other industries, in the state of Ohio, but I would assume in the country as well, because, we've met people from in the HVAC industry from across the country, and it's the same type of thing. Like everybody like are good people and they treat people the way that you should. And one of the biggest mottos of ACP that sticks with me is being easy to do business with. So we've, I guess, the origin of being easy to do business with, I kind of have a little bit of an idea of that. But I guess, Michael, can you explain, number one, the origin, but number two, why that matters so much?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think besides the fact that he may or may not have stole the verbiage from one of our manufacturers, Greene, I at the end of the day, we're in the relationship business, and Josh knows he's worked with one of our customers before, but you like doing business with people you like, and part of that is just making it as easy as possible, removing as many barriers as you can to get the job done. So whether that be, being able to interpret drawings, having an engineering staff on site like we do, having a great estimating team like we do, having a stocked warehouse, just being able to provide as much as possible with one call, one email, so on and so forth. I think that's what really encapsulates being easy to do business with. And the biggest thing is just the people we have. I couldn't be happier with the people that I work with. And I think that really shows in our industry and especially with our customers.
And I couldn't agree more. And not only is it the people inside the company that we work with and that we enjoy working with, but I feel like the culture we have, it extends out into our other relationships with our customers too. So it's almost contagious.
Mm-hmm.
You can go into like a customer's office, whether it's an engineer or a contractor, and if you're in an upbeat mood and you're just basically high on life, they can't help but not feel the same way, and not even if they're in a bad mood. If you come in feeling great and happy and asking them like how their day is going, how their life is treating them, they have no choice but to match your energy.
Sure.
And that's something too that we covered a lot in our recent CX coaching kind of rollout with Frank Favaro. And I guess the big thing that strikes me about that is the willingness to invest in the resources to help grow not only the company but like the employees themselves. So what's kind of your thought and standpoint on investing in growth and putting money back into the company?
Yeah, another great question. Personally, and I think I can speak for my father when I say this, but we are trying to create an environment where people can grow and be their best selves, learn as many skills as possible. And, I think a lot of people approach it as getting the most out of your employees, where I like to think about it as our employees getting the most out of us. So if we can provide the tools, we can provide the education, everything like that, then people are going to want and be able to do more and be better at their jobs. And, I think investments like Frank Favaro or EOS or technology or anything like that, it just makes people more comfortable. It gives people the ability to be the best that they can be. And like I said before, people are the most important asset. So anything that we can do for our people, it's a no-brainer. So.
And I want to rewind real quick to one thing you just said there. And it's not that a company getting the most out of their people, but it's their people getting the most out of their company. And I like, I've never really heard that phrase and thought of it that way, but you're 100% right.
Yeah, I think you can trademark that. Actually, I'll let you have that one for free. But yeah, it's it's the big thing, back in the day, people used to not necessarily love, but the expectation was you go into work, you grind your 70, 80 hours if you want to move up, and that's just what you did. But it's different these days, especially in this market where recruiting isn't necessarily an easy thing. And that's not necessarily the motivation behind it, but to provide an environment and an atmosphere that people feel like they can be themselves, do what they're good at, do what they like to do. The rest, it'll just go from there. So.
Yeah, Michael, this is great to hear and all, and I just want to know more about how exactly this company culture and the focus on the people at the company developed with the company. Because I know you guys started in what, the 70s about? Is that true?
Yeah, 74.
Right.
Yeah.
So since 74, you guys have been growing and developing your own workforce. But where along the line and what principles were developed to solely focus on your people and create that sort of culture?
Yeah, so I can only speak for as long as my brain can remember. But when my grandpa started back in 74, he was kind of just in the business to make money, which at the time was very common. And over the years, started making money, and seeing the ability to pour into people came to the forefront. And certainly when my dad came in and began a leadership role, I think that heightened even more. I'll say one story. One of our longest employees, who I don't fact check me on this, but I think he even started there before my dad, who recently retired, is Greg Cobb. One of the last things he said, and he's not really retired, but one of the last things he said to me before he left was, "This is the best group of people we've ever had." And that has absolutely nothing to do with anybody that previously worked with us, but we've experienced some growth. We've had some success, which has allowed us to pour into people and provide as many resources as we possibly can. And I think, as far as I've seen it, every couple of months it's better and better. But I think culture really was always in the DNA of ACP, and we've now have the ability to really pour into it, like I said.
100%. And one of the biggest things that sticks with me from when I first met your dad and like kind of had a long 6-month interview process before he finally gave me a co-op offer, is his intense focus on relationships. And he was one of the first people that really like hammered that in my head, because before I didn't think about relationships in like the business aspect. I thought like you have relationships with your friends and family and that's all. Like I never
Right.
saw it from like the sales and the customer and even the coworker perspective. But the biggest thing that stuck with me is when he said, we at Air Control Products, we don't fire people. We allow our culture to do the work for us. So if someone fits the culture, everything's going to go great and they're going to fit in perfectly. But if they don't fit the culture will work them out. And I've had the opportunity to see people who haven't fit the culture, and he's 100% right. So kind of shifting gears a little bit from culture into, being a family-run business, a family-owned business since ACP was founded in the 70s. You being third generation, how does that, what does that mean to you? And how do you see your leadership role, in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah. Well, I'll say it means everything. I mean, it's a dream, and I'm very fortunate to have the ability to be in a position to lead a company that my grandfather started back, coming up on 50 years ago. It's really hard to, I guess, put into words how much that means. And obviously, having my dad take it over and being able to work with my dad every day. If you would have asked me when I was 14 years old, I would have said, "Oh my gosh, I can't think of a worse situation, but now I think it's the best thing that's happened to our relationship. Obviously, you hear a lot of horror stories of family businesses, and there are plenty out there, but I think it's quite the opposite with us. I think it's strengthened our relationship. I think, it's given us a lot of additional respect for each other. And you add on the layer of it being a legacy of Bob Greene, who unfortunately passed away, I guess, almost 2 years ago now. It's, like I said, hard to put into words. And as far as the leadership role goes, I guess the biggest thing is just learning and building relationships internally and externally. I'm lucky that my dad's still young, so I don't see him going anywhere anytime soon. But just, taking on as much responsibility as I can, learning as much as I can about the business, and learning what motivates our people and what we can do to help our people is really just my focus right now. So who knows what 5-10 years looks like, as you know, Sean, at ACP. One day I'm doing something, the next day it's entirely different. So sure, we have a plan on paper of what's going to happen over the next 5-10 years, but it's probably not going to happen exactly as it's written.
So considering you see yourself in like a building phase and a development phase right now, what are some personal things or, career goals that you see ACP meeting, or that you see yourself meeting while at ACP in that like 5 to 10 year range?
That's a really good question. I guess I'll approach this question in two different ways, on a micro and macro level. I think I've identified some strengths and weaknesses, as we do, and when we get into our careers. And my biggest focus right now personally is not necessarily moving my weaknesses to strengths, but moving them out of weaknesses. So I think I've been put in some situations, and Josh, you've been on the contractor side, so you can relate to this, where a contractor is not happy. And whether it's your fault, whether it's the GC's fault, whether Mercury's in retrograde, who knows? It doesn't matter. So I think maybe a generational thing, but I don't necessarily strive when it comes to conflict. So personally, that's something that I'm not chasing conflict, but I'm welcoming it. And I'm trying to see it and use it as an opportunity to better myself. Macro level, one of the best things my dad has done for me is he's put me in a group called Vistage. Sean, I think you know about it. Josh, you may or may not, but it's a group of peers who are, I think there's 10 to 12 of us in the group. We meet once a month, a full day session, and we discuss anything under the sun. And it's people in similar positions to me, industries from rubber to software to transportation or anything. And those meetings are so invaluable. I learn a ton from these people that have been in the industry for years and years and years. So I guess leadership from a macro level, understanding finances, things of that nature, that's one thing that I see as a personal goal of just absorbing as much as I possibly can.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So on the Vistage side of things, having that opportunity to meet with those people that are kind of in a similar role to you, and maybe 10, 15, 20 years ahead, would you say that outside of your father, have there been other people that have been mentors to you that have helped you grow, and you can kind of go to when you have questions or when you have kind of problems you're trying to work through?
Yeah, that's a great point, and absolutely. Not that there are many, but I guess one of the downfalls of a family business is, my dad started working for ACP when he was 18. And like I said, I started when I was 15. And I think one of the reasons he not made me, but had me go out and do my own thing for a few years is so I can experience life outside of ACP and kind of see things from a different lens. So being able to talk to people that can view ACP objectively without all of the intangibles is very important, and not being stuck in our own little ACP snow globe, as I like to say. Yeah, absolutely. I've made a ton of friends and definitely professional mentors throughout that have given me advice that you couldn't put a price tag on.
Yeah, Michael, and considering you grew up with it, you know the business like the back of your hand. I just wanted to ask, what do you think of entrepreneurship and looking at your grandpa and your dad, and now you're building up working for ACP? And how would that entrepreneurship like affect the community that you surround yourself with and the community that you build yourself for yourself? Sorry.
Yeah, no, very interesting question. I think it's the backbone of our country. Obviously, it's what we're all about. But I would say the way it impacts your community and things like that, being able to provide a place where people can come to work, grow their careers, find them best selves is first and foremost. But being able to find local causes and things of that nature that you can invest in, whether it's time, money, energy, whatever it is a huge part of what we like to do. So I would say entrepreneurship is, again, it's of utmost importance to our country as a whole. And it takes somebody that's fearless, almost ignorantly fearless, to where they don't even see potential failures. I could go on and on about some of the stories from my grandpa, but one of the, I think, underrated aspects of entrepreneurship and being successful is staying calm and even keeled. That's one of the most important things I think my father has taught me is don't get too high, don't get too low. So it's something that I try to instill in my daily life.
Yep, and I agree with that completely. And one thing too, in terms of like the community and the generosity, that's something that you've gotten to witness firsthand through your dad and through your grandpa, but I have as well. Just not only your grandpa starting the Green Acres community garden down the street, the amount like your dad will donate in terms of HVAC equipment to like the local JATC, to ASHRAE, to all the organizations that help make our industry great. And if the cool thing too, not only about Michael but also about his dad, like if we ask, hey, can you donate something to this, the answer is always yes. And that just shows the generosity, and that ties into the culture as well, because that breeds generosity into all the employees too. But on the other side of things, in terms of the entrepreneurship and kind of the weight that you have to carry as a business owner and running a company with what we have 63, 64 employees now, like and continuously growing by the month. But if you think of it on a high level, you have 64 people that are depending on you. And it may not be directly, but they depend on you and they depend on the company for their paycheck. So if you look at it from a high level, like it's kind of a lot of pressure, and in staying even keel and calm under that pressure is immensely important, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you have to look at it as you have the opportunity that these people are depending on you. And that's the motivation of every day, being representing the top manufacturers, having the relationships with their customers that we do. We're not always chasing a PO or chasing a sale just to do so. You want to be able to build into that culture that we talked about earlier. But yeah, sure, there's pressure, I guess, but it's good. It's a good pressure. It's a motivating pressure. It's the bulletin board material as they used in sports. So I think that's really at the end of the day what keeps us going.
Yes, sir. Yeah, you're 100% right. And Two, like you look at like what you said, not chasing a PO. The common misconception about like people who work in sales is that salespeople only care about your money. They only care about making the sale. They don't care about anything else. And honestly, like when I was younger, I thought that same thing too. It's like your used car salesman type of vibe.
Mm-hmm.
You think every salesman is like that. They just want you to spend their money and they want their commission. That's all. But working in this industry and working for ACP, I've gotten the opportunity to see how that's not the case. And we almost look at it as the fact that the relationship comes first every single time. Even if we help somebody out, we don't help somebody out expecting something in return. We do it because we have the servant's heart. And that's another thing that your dad has always said that stuck with me. And it's that servant's heart to help people without expecting anything in return, because you like that person, you enjoy working with that person, and you know that by helping them, you're furthering their relationship. So maybe if a sale doesn't come today, it could come 2 weeks down the road, a month down the road, whatever. But it's having that hindsight, knowing that what you do in this exact moment may not, pay immediate dividends, but it'll pay long-term dividends.
Yeah. And I think our industry is notably a longer sales process than others, to touch on that last point. But you're absolutely right. I grew up with a very similar mentality of salespeople are sort of a greasy, trying to take advantage of sort of person. And I'm sure there are people out there like that. But at the end of the day, it's solving problems is what I think we're in the relationship or business of relationships and solving problems. There's nothing better than getting a call of saying, hey, here's my problem, whether it be a picture, them describing it to you, and being able to say, okay, I'm going to use the resources around me. I'm going to use this great team around me, like Sean helped me with today and yesterday, and provide a solution, be the solution to solve that. And I'm also a strong believer, you get to a certain point, you have money to put food on the table, clothes on your back, a roof over your head, then money is no longer the motivator. So being able to solve those problems, build those lifelong relationships with people that just so happen to be your customers, that's what it's really all about. And we all want to help each other. We all want to see each other do well. And that's what's important. So.
Mm-hmm. And one quick thing, because I know Josh has a question here in a second, like what you said about our situation today, that's the perfect example of how we solve problems and grow relationships. We had someone who reached out that had an unfortunate situation where they need to expedite something quickly. What we originally had worked on engineering wise wasn't going to cut it. So we had to kind of pivot and find a new solution. And through, the work that Michael and I were able to do together, we were able to find
and Heather, shout out Heather, sorry.
And Heather, shout out to Heather too. And we were able to find a solution that we initially didn't have in the back of our mind. And that came from information that Michael had from a couple weeks before. And tying that in with like background information that Heather and I had, we put it all together and we found a solution that ideally should make the customer very happy.
Yeah, and absolutely will.
So I just want to talk a little bit about the fact that it seems like ACP is everything that a company, no matter what size, should strive to be. They support their community, they support their people. And like in the best sense of the word entrepreneurship, that is providing the greatest value for the greatest amount of people. And it seems like you guys are working your way up to that very well. But you talk about it being a relationship business at the end of the day. And I also think that if more people had that mentality when they go into work every day, that, hey, I'm in this to not only provide for myself, but at the end of the day, provide value to other people and make their lives better by making that valuable sale, not just trying to, scrape you for money, but actually trying to make a win-win situation. So that those relationships are so important. And I want to plug this book, one of the greatest books I've ever read. I'm actually rereading it right now. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I think everyone should read it. It's a must read. And it's very, very simple, but it's laid out in a way that makes you think of, how can I provide value to others? Because
Mhm.
when I do so, I not only build my reputation with them, I also build my worth to them, and thus I build like a better community, a better overall relationship for business or for friendship or, you know, for that sort of relationship. So
Mhm.
it seems like although ACP might be a smaller company, you guys do a great job of building those relationships, and it has a ripple effect on the community and the people around you.
Yeah, I'd certainly like to think so. Um, at the end of the day, I think who you surround yourself with is the most important thing. Personal relationships, professional relationships, regardless. I always say what you're doing at work, sure, yeah, it's very important, but who you come in and sit next to, or who you are chatting by the water cooler with, or you're walking out to your car with, that is equally, if not more important. We're all humans at the end of the day. We all want to create those personal relationships and have people we trust. So, I think that truly is the backbone of what we do at ACP, but also just kind of how I try to view all of my relationships.
And it's like the saying goes, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So
Yeah,
the why that we have within the company culture allows us to scale the culture as we bring on more people and get people to buy into the culture.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, without our customers, we're nothing. And we like to think that we are a fairly valuable resource to our customers. So being able to, like I said earlier, remove as many obstacles or barriers as possible to our customers is what it's all about. So yeah.
Yep, I agree completely. So kind of as we near the end here, we like to finish with three kind of common questions that we like to ask each one of our guests. So
Right.
question number one, what is your number one goal for the remainder of 2022? And this can be both personal or work related.
Oh boy, it's a tough one because I only got 3 months, so I can't shoot too high here.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And if you want to, you can pivot into 2023 as well.
no, I like the challenge. I'll take 2022. I'll do a serious and somewhat less serious answer. Personally, it's being a husband and a father. I know that's the cop out answer, but currently my wife's pregnant with kid number 2. Pregnancy is kicking her butt, and my daughter has double ear infection and a sinus infection. And I tell you, there is absolutely no worse feeling in the world than having your kid feel that way and not being able to do anything or communicate to her and say, hey, the medicine that we're giving you is going to help.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's number one. Number two, I really want to win my fantasy football league. I pride myself on being a pretty good fantasy football player. So I would say, I spend too much time outside of work, obviously thinking about it. It's kind of my escape, but yeah, there's that. Professionally, I mean, I'm always looking to just take in as much knowledge as possible. I think one of the things my dad has instilled in me is don't pretend like you know something you don't. Nobody likes that person who's like, oh yeah, I know that, I know that, I know that, I know that. No, there's tons of stuff I don't know. And
Mm-hmm.
I try to surround people around me that know way more than I do. Like I remember when Sean tried to explain to me the psychrometric chart for the first time. I was like, what? This isn't real. But now I enjoy it. I tried to explain it to somebody the other day. I couldn't explain it to the level that Sean did, but I would say fill in as many gaps as possible. And there's some internal processes and stuff at ACP that I'm not as good at as I want to be. That I would say I'm trying to check off my checklist before the new year.
Yep. Those are all excellent. And we appreciate you taking the time to join us on this podcast episode while both Joss and Lee were not feeling the best. So thank you for that.
Oh, absolutely.
Kind of working into question number 2, what is your favorite book of all time, whether it's financial, business, motivation, any category whatsoever?
Oh boy. That's a tough one. I'll try to switch it up here. Back in high school, you always get those books in English classes and stuff that you just dread, and see if you can get by with SparkNotes personally. But one book that whenever I get asked this question, one thing that always comes to mind is Heart of Darkness. I don't know if either of you have read it, but it encapsulates a lot of different challenges and allegorical scenarios that at the time of reading it, I didn't understand very much, but taking a look back at it, it's a pretty incredible book and a must read, as Josh would say. Absolutely must read.
I'll have to look into that as well. And then question number 3, if you had to give credit to one person in your life that has had the greatest impact on where you are today, who would that person be?
Wow. There's so many different ways to look at this. Obviously, you look at my grandfather and creating the business that I'm in today. That's absolutely huge. My father, and obviously my mother, who's the real backbone of our family, taught me everything. I think somebody that I didn't always realize had the biggest impact on my life until over the past few years is my brother. Growing up, he was always the smart one. He was the one with the good grades who never got into any trouble. And I always looked at him like, you're just making me look bad. I'd have teachers and they'd say, "Oh, you're Robbie's brother? That's awesome." And in the back of my head, I'm like, no, it's not. But, we're so alike and we're so different. And he's an engineer as well, so he thinks entirely differently than me. But his approach to life, it's really had a pretty profound impact on me. His willingness to take chances. He's lived at least for a period of 6 or 8 months in 3 or 4 different continents outside of the US over the past 7, 8 years without knowing anybody going over there and doing things. It puts it into perspective of walking into that contractor or engineer's office that's just PO'd about one thing or another. It's not really a huge deal. So, I guess everybody that I've said, and I'm sure there's 15 to 20 other people that I'm missing, but yeah, my brother certainly had a huge impact on me.
Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest, that I think that's probably one of the best answers we've received to that question. So excellent job, 100%. So before we kind of finish up here, Josh, do you have any kind of final questions you want to ask or any final comments?
Well, final comments. Thanks for coming today, Michael. It was great to see you again, maybe over camera this time. Maybe we'll see each other in person soon. But I'm grateful to be here, and I'm grateful for the wisdom you shared. And you're talking about relationship building and building the community up and the profound effect other people have had on you. It puts things in perspective for myself, and I hope for our listeners as well. So glad to be here, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, absolute pleasure to be on here. I appreciate you guys asking me, some candid, some tough questions, and it's really made me think as well. So I appreciate that. Josh, I hope to see you soon. Sean, I'll see you bright and early tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Maybe,
Absolutely.
maybe not. And anytime you guys need to fill a guest or anything like that,
Absolutely.
I'll be here.
This was a tremendous episode. You know, we did definitely ask some hard questions, and you answered them well. You pivoted. You explained a lot of stuff that even I wasn't aware about. So thank you for that as well. Kind of as we wrap up here too, Michael, if people want to connect with you on social media, LinkedIn, or connect with Air Control Products, how can they do that?
Sure. I mean, we're all over all of them. We actually just started an Instagram account not long ago, which props to you, Sean. I'm actually somewhat thinking seriously or not about starting a TikTok just so I can walk around and make people do dances and stuff. But
Danger.
yeah, so danger. Michael Greene, I'm on pretty much everything. Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or whatever it may be. Feel free to connect with me. I like to share as much about the industry and about ACP as I can. So
Yep,
yeah.
absolutely. And you can find Air Control at www.aircontrolproducts.com or Air Control Products on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. Josh, how about you? Where can our listeners find you?
Yeah, I'm on everything as well. Instagram at Josh_Besessi, Josh Besessi on LinkedIn. And yeah, there you have it.
Absolutely. And you can find me at Sean Lacey 7 on all social media platforms, as well as Sean Lacey on LinkedIn. And you can find the Financial Literacy Institute at www.thefli.net. Make sure to check out our website, read our blog posts, listen to these podcast episodes. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube as well. But I mean, in closing, Michael, thank you so much. This was a phenomenal episode. Josh, great questions as well. And thank you for jumping in on this too. I mean, I can't wait to see how Air Control Products continues to grow, and I'm blessed to be a part of it. I appreciate your leadership, your guidance, and the honor to work with you and both your dad and the entire Greene family. So
The honor's mine.
But yeah, we appreciate you. Thank you for sharing the knowledge, and I'm sure our listeners are going to take a lot away from this. So in closing, this has been another episode of On the Fly. Everyone have a great night, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, guys.